So, try number 2 for me to come on and talk about the projection field. Because it is real. I do not know if anyone's going to hop on and hear me tonight. It's kind of late at night. People are probably doing some stuff. I'm going to tag some people, just in case they happen to be awake and happen to want to listen and hear what I have to say. We'll see. But I really want to have this conversation really quickly tonight about the 5 line. Seriously. I feel like this needs to be had. Hello, beautiful Patricia. Hello, Amber. I want to have a conversation tonight about the 5 line. Only because there are some things going on in my world, specifically, and my 2 youngest children are both 5-1s. So my son and my daughter are both 5-1s. She's 19, he's 22. And so I have had the privilege, honor, and journey of being a parent to 5-line children for a really long time. The first thing I'm going to say is with a 5 line, with that projection field, first of all, when you are someone who is a 6-2, there's a different kind of relationship. That's just a thing. But on top of that, I have gate 6, which is called the Aura Buster, in my particular design 3 times, twice on the personality side, once on the body side. I cut through aura, which in the work that I do with human design has made it so that I have had a really wonderful experience in being able to work with 5-line people, see them for who they truly are, help them get through some of the projection things they're dealing with, help them find processes to deal with it. I don't know. I don't even know where this is going to go, except for me to say that it is going to be really beneficial for everyone who understands human design to really know who the 5-line people in their lives are. That's really a thing. So I'm on the phone and I'm having this conversation with my son, and he's really struggling with being seen for who he is rather than being seen through that projection field. And I feel like, right? It could be super helpful for those of us who have an awareness of our human design to really make sure when we know we're dealing with 5-line people, to give them the space and the grace necessary to let them inform you as to who they are, rather than sitting in that projection energy and not really being clear, not allowing them to show you, right? As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, here at home right now, since we have all of the college students home, we've got 2 5-1s in the house now. My cousin's son and my daughter are both here, and he's also a 5-1. And I'm having this conversation, and it's really difficult because, hey, Kim, because I'm connecting and I'm understanding and seeing and trying to give guidance. But what I really need to have happen is more people to understand who their 5-line people are and how that projection field works. And I don't know how to necessarily do that part. But I just want to talk about it, right? So one of the things that happened, with my daughter, and we had a lot of conversation about it, especially when she was actively competing in sports in high school, is she had the audacity to make teenage decisions and teenage choices and teenage mistakes. And even to this day, there are people who, like her former high school coach, who's still really shitty to her, and she's a kid who's about to turn 19, because she felt let down by my daughter's choices. Now, in full transparency, I did not love her choices, but I also recognized her humanity in them, her immaturity of age in them, the fact that, she was doing some stuff that a lot of young people were doing. She just happened to be the one that got caught, right? And literally, we are the sum total of our life experiences, and we choose things. And if we don't choose correctly, maybe we do choose correctly, and maybe those hard lessons are the lessons the universe wants us to have, right? That could really be what it is. Yeah, Sherry, I am going to assume that you have a ton. So if you want to pipe in at any time, but a ton of 5-line wisdom, I'm going to speak from my perspective, being someone who guides people deeper into their understanding of themselves and the energy around them, and being someone who has raised 2 5-1 children and worked with a ton of 5-1 clients. But what I find that they struggle with, so, I got a call from my son this evening, and there's some stuff going on. And so we started to have this conversation about the fact that he's struggling with people not seeing him for who he is, people seeing him through their projections on him. And the fact that there are times that what people see in the projection field of a 5-line person is what they need to see, and it has nothing to do with that 5-line person. And it's just a rough spot to be in. Oh, yeah. So I'm 6'2", I'm off the roof. But in addition, I think my design, I figured that out a few years ago. My design is extremely helpful, specifically because I have this ability, I have this space that I'm in where the projection field, for me, it's there, but I can kind of see it. I kind of bust through it. I can see kind of what's going on behind it. And also the awareness of that, and knowing who the 5-1s in my world are, and allowing myself to sit back and wait until I feel something's correct to respond to. I think that for me, that's another piece. So awareness being the key, right? And it's such a crazy, crazy thing. So the 5-1 people that I've had a lot of contact with in the last few months are 25 and under. And have honestly, felt really, really connected to me because of my ability to see them, to see through it, to help them manage that, right? And so, do you have any 5-1s in your life? If you do, please keep in mind, here are the pro tips. Sometimes you might be seeing what you need to see, and it doesn't have anything to do with them. Sometimes you're going to need to give yourself a little more time to get to clarity and the truth of what you're seeing, and allow space and grace for that, right? One of the things, so I'll go back to my story with my daughter. So yeah, so she still has her coach from her high school volleyball career still doesn't speak to her. And it's probably good for me that I haven't seen her, because I'd probably say exactly how I feel about this, because it really hurt my daughter's feelings. It really, really hurt her feelings that she's reached out to this person and has had no response since graduating from high school. I can recall my daughter having issues with coaches outside of high school, like in club and things like that. And we have this conversation where I'm sitting on the sidelines and I'm watching what's happening, and I know it's the projection field. I know that they're interpreting things through their own filter. And so the conversation I had with my daughter specifically, so this is the pro tip for 5-1s, for 5 lines, for if you are in that external projection field. You know people are projecting. Is the projection true? Is it true? Is it a projection? Is it an external thing? Or are they seeing something that's true? Even if it's true, do you really fucking care? And so these were the conversations I was having with a 16, 17-year-old to help her work her way through it, right? If he's wrong, he's wrong. And then it's on you to find a way to let it go. It is. It's on you to find a way to let it go. Yeah, Kim, the stuff that happened to my daughter her senior year, I really chalk up to, youth and we all make choices that we maybe could have made better ones, right? And so she ended up at the very end of the season, of the best season of volleyball in the school's history, and her being one of the pivotal linchpin players, getting suspended from school. I fought the law and I won. That's a whole separate story we could talk about. I did. I went to battle for her and I won. I'm not saying she didn't make a mistake. I'm saying the punishment needs to fit the crime, and the punishment was far greater, in my opinion, than the crime. But holding it against a child because they disappointed you, right? Like, kind of adult does that. Although I'd have to say, I guess it would probably be helpful if I knew that coach's profile, and I don't. So yeah, and 5-1s do feel intimidating, but 5-1s feel intimidating because they really are forcing people to see the shit they need to see. Right? That's literally what it's doing. And so I don't know. I'm just talking about this because I really want us, if you're in this community, if you're learning to lean into your human design, if you're feeling into understanding it, even if you don't know someone else's profile necessarily, right? Because we're not walking around asking people, ooh, what's your human, maybe we are, we could be. I do, but that's, it's what I do. But just kind of knowing to be in a space that sometimes you're going to interact with people, and allowing yourself to be in your strategy and authority, allowing yourself to not speak, allowing yourself to feel into what is correct is going to do more for you than anything else ever will. Right? It was getting this call from my son tonight and kind of, talking him off of his very, very frustration induced edge of, anger and whatever, right? Having that conversation with him. And at the point at which I said, well, can we talk about your energy? Can we talk about that? And so rewind to say this. So my daughter had the benefit of being in this with me for several years. My son, who was my third child, after his freshman year of high school, went to live with his father. And so he knows what I do, but he really wasn't in the household with me while I was doing it. And I said, you know the stuff I do. Can we talk about your energy? He's like, yeah, let's, whatever, Mom, just say whatever. And I said, well, I need you to understand, these are the things I understand about that 5-1, that I understand about that projection field. And it takes people a while to really see who you are. They see what they want to see and sometimes what they need to see, and they don't really see you. And he was like, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, there was this crazy stuff and it really isn't me. And so, yeah, so trying to have these conversations, trying to make this a regular dialogue about how we deal with people, because we don't really ever know unless we know who we're dealing with. And allowing yourself to be in a space of compassion, in a space where you understand, ooh, let me throw this one out there. Let's put this out there. In a space where, here's what we need to know. There are 32 channels in human design. 64 gates, divide that in half. So gates connect, 32 channels. 22 of the 32 channels in our bodies are projected channels. What does that mean? That means that if you're not invited, your energy isn't welcome. And I say that to say, most of us are walking around with energy in us that needs to be invited to participate. If your opinion ain't invited, keep it to yourself. I just want to give us kind of like some weight and some brevity to this because, you know, as I'm trying to mediate a situation and have meaningful dialogue and conversation, it's far more difficult, number one, with people who really don't understand human design. And number two, with people who have a high level of emotions going, high level of emotions, and then it's, well, you're only saying things because, you know, you're the mom and you're, you know, no, I'm saying this because I know what's going on and I see what's going on. And I see it from an energetic space. And I also see it from a heart space. Right? And having been given this gift of awareness and this ability to be present and connect, regardless of that, has been super helpful for me on my journey. And so I'm just going to offer to people, right? Just be in a space, especially as it comes to personal relationships, especially as it comes in a place of personal relationships. Be in a space of going, you know, I have a good relationship with this person. I know this person. I care about this person. Maybe I need to wait and temper my response. Maybe I need to work. Oh, what was it? What is it's a little TikTok thing. Or, you know, worry about yourself. Worry about yourself. And, you know, I say that because I'm saying this because I'm watching young people struggle because there's not really this broader understanding of energetics and how energy works and managing yourself versus trying to manage other people. Yeah, it's just this place that I'm in. It's this place that I'm in, and it's painful to me. It's painful for me. And this isn't even about me, to watch this struggle that doesn't necessarily have to be there, right? And Sherry, I want you to know how much I appreciate your comments, because I think that's important, that understanding that fundamental part of knowing you had this energy, knowing you had this interaction with people, not knowing why necessarily, right? And then, as you said, knowing has made a huge difference in living your life, right? Kim Harlan Wheeler, you are magical. And of course, observing and listening is always a good place to start. It is. I'm suggesting that for everybody because some of us are in that role already, are in that place. So as you're dealing with people, as you're interacting with people, as you're leaning into living kind of in your energy, in your fullness, in your correctness, please take the lovely Kim Harlan Wheeler's advice. And observing and listening is always a good place to start. Then I might suggest you hit up the Little Brown Wren and look at her jewelry, because while she's observing and listening, she is creating magnificent pieces, but that's a sidebar. Yeah, I think there's a place and a space where we can begin to have like meaningful dialogue, meaningful conversation about how we interact with other people. Because the fact of the matter is, everybody isn't our people, and that's okay. Everyone isn't our people, and that's okay. Treating people like shit because they're not our people is not okay. Yeah. Oh my God. Sherry, talk about honoring an emotional wave, because I'm on here now talking to you guys about this because I was dealing with some stuff with my son. But the flip side is I have quarantined myself in my room today because I was in an emotional wave. And I know what that can do to the people around me. So I kept my ass in my room most of the day to allow myself to work through a lot of my internal dialogue and turmoil without smacking everybody else upside the head with it. Right? I mean, yeah. Yeah. And that's the difficult spot, right? Honoring the emotional wave and being in mama bear mode. And I can remember, when my daughter was getting suspended from school, and I'm going up to the school, and I'm having this meeting with my daughter and with the principal, and like, I get it. There was nothing that was going to change while we sat there. Literally nothing was going to change. And trying to have this conversation with this daughter of mine who is like super emotional in that moment. And here's the thing. Oh, here's the thing for you guys to know. Here's another tidbit. Here's another gem. Here's another jewel. Gotcha. When you are, let's say you're not emotionally defined, that does not mean that you don't have emotions. Okay? Just because you are not emotionally defined doesn't mean you don't have emotions. What it means is your wave is not consistent, and it is not part of your decision-making process. So here's one of the things that can happen. When you are a non-emotional defined person and you get into an emotional space, what you can typically do is trigger a wave in an emotional person, and it's going to, trust me, eclipse your wave in ways you had no idea could happen, right? So you're upset and you're crying. They're going to feel compassionate for you. They're going to be even more upset. They're going to cry even harder. And it sounds ridiculous, but that really is like part of how that plays together. So just an awareness. Right? And yes, we're still in eclipse, full moon, and solstice energy. We're still in all of that shit. Y'all don't want my chart, because now we've got, or the chart, Or how about this? So I'll take it slightly to astrology, because here's what we know. We know that Venus just entered into Leo. Mars just entered into Leo. My natal Mars is in Leo. My sun is in Leo. I got all these squares happening. I know. And because I know, I'm really trying to keep my personal practices together. I'm meditating. I'm healing. I'm on Healy like it's a crack pipe. Like what else can I Healy? And in addition to that, I am keeping myself in physical proximity away from impacting other people. So what does that mean? That means our waves and the way that our auras play with each other actually have a proximity thing to them. And it's about 6 feet. So if I keep myself way over here on the other side of the house, away from, like, more than 10 feet from everybody, I'm not literally impacting the entire household with my energetic wave that I know I'm in, that I know I'm feeling. And I'm actually really glad that by the time my son called me this evening, I had already been through quite a bit of that, because I was probably a lot more calm, collected, rational, and in control of me because of that. Because I had, number one, had the awareness, and number two, have a life that allows me to take my time when I need to take my time. So that's what I did. So I'm going to encourage you to, Patricia, I've had Healy on, like, I'm telling you. Yes, I've had Healy on like a mofo. I healed the house. I've healed myself. I just everything. Right? Because why not? Because I have tools. Oh, Jody, yeah. Let me tell you. So you went into a 4-day lockdown. Where are you? Where are you located that you went into a lockdown? That's what I need to know, because I feel like that means it's Australia. I'm assuming, because I know they got crazy stuff going on there. So, yep, okay, yep, I see it. I clicked on your profile because, like, that's the only place I know that just went into a new lockdown, right? So I know there are lots of feelings about these lockdowns. I'm not going to say any of those feelings are invalid. I am going to say I did a class on spleen and sacral and waves and fears at the beginning of the panorama last year, because I knew it was going to be a thing, right? Here's what I'm going to say. Conditioning and societal control come from keeping us in group dynamics. And I've said this before in some lives a while ago. But group dynamics, group control, group think happens when we are in groups. And the more that the powers that be do these things that quarantine us and keep us separate, the more they're actually breaking down their own structures. So I don't like it. Let me just say, I don't agree with, all of this stuff. But I think the result is going to be completely the opposite of what they think the result is going to be. I hope that makes sense. That part of conditioning and control comes from group dynamics, because group dynamics puts us into penta and wa energy. And I just did a live and a post or something about that, right? So I did a post. So when we're collective, when there are groups of us, it changes our energetic dynamics and it suppresses our individual energy and shoves us into group dynamics. It really does. And so while I think that, continued lockdowns are bullshit, personal opinion, not scientific. Don't give a damn about the scientificals right now. It's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the energetics. What I think is going to happen is because it's already happening, right? There's chinks in the armor. There's chinks in the program. There's chinks in the matrix. We get to see the man behind the curtain now, because they've literally put us in a place that they didn't realize was going to pull that curtain back. So I hope that makes sense. That's a thing. That's a thing. And I hope you're safe, and I hope you're okay, and I'm sorry. It's a mess. But I really believe that in the long run, it's the thing that's going to be the catalyst. It is the catalyst. Not going to be the catalyst. It is the catalyst. That's just Alicia's opinion and perspective. And part of that, and I don't talk about this a lot, I could talk about it more, is the global consciousness program, right? And so we have been in the current universal energetics that we're in for about 400 years. And we're going to be switching lanes. Let's call it switching lanes in 2027. So like anything else, this is energetic. So it's waxing in, waning out. So we're in that waning of the current energetics, and then we will begin waxing into the new energetics. And so we're leaving what is called the cross of planning. And so all of the energy universally that supported these collective structures, charities, businesses, global, all of this is going to fall away. It just is. And so, which this is part of why sovereign ascension for me is a huge thing. Because I was doing a lot of work today for the course that I'm doing, the pleasure principle that's coming up. And so I was in a lot of documents today, getting things together for that, which is why this is fresh in my head. So we're going to be entering into this next cycle. And what I'm going to tell you is, we are entering into an era of selfishness. And so when you hear me talking about sovereign selfishness, that is exactly what I'm talking about. We are entering into an era where we are going to have to be our own best authority, be the one we can rely on, develop and build our own circles of community and trust, because we can't rely on it from the outside anymore. So yeah, Kim, it absolutely is a time of shedding. It's a time of purification. We've been in this cross of planning and this one line energy for quite some time. And when we get to, and it begins before that, right? Because it's energy. So we're feeling the waning out of that energy, and we will begin to feel the waxing in of the next cycle, which again, more than 400-year cycle. But we're also going from one line energy, give me some information, give me some data, get me some whatever, into 6 line energy. And there's this expectation of autonomy. Yeah, there's a lot going with that. But yeah, so as I personally sit back and watch these things happen and regard them through the lens of what I understand from human design, as well as watching, historical patterns and all that other stuff. Yeah, we need to be in a place where we are building our own communities and support structures with the people we are aligned with. And nobody can be surprised that this global shit's falling apart. Just can't be. Oh, thanks, Sherry. And thank you for dropping your experience. Because, the Crone crew has to stick together, my sister. The Crone crew has to stick together. I finally made it. I mean, I know I'm brand new in the crew, but I got you. So yeah, allow yourself, I'll go back to the beginning. Allow yourself some grace and space. Allow yourself grace and space to allow people to be who they are. I think that's the hard part right now, right? Because you've got people who literally want to shame people into behavior that they think is correct for what's going on, and then other people who want to fight back because they don't believe. Like, we have to get to this place where it's okay for each one of us as individuals to decide what is correct for us, and everybody else go, oh, do you, boo, do you, because that's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen. Well, I'm glad, Jody, that you knew it was coming and that you're good. I have watched people lose so much during this time, through lack of work and just, but I've also seen us collectively gain so much. And I mean that in the most sincere, heartfelt way, right? There is so much rhetoric and divisiveness that's happening right now, let's say in the US, but at the same time, even in the midst of all of that, the churning of truth is really, really happening in that container, right? It just is. We can argue about all of the things we want to argue about, but there's going to be accountability for the sins of the past, which I think, I talked about quite a while ago. I'm sure there's a live I did at some point a while ago. As a matter of fact, it might have even been with Phoebe Kuhn. It could have been back before the election. But as we talked about where the United States is in its evolution and its astrology, knowing that we were coming into an era where, as a nation, this nation has to answer for the sins of the past, right? It's where Pluto is for the chart of the country. Oh, and by the way, just so everybody knows, the United States is a 5-1. And we do not have profiles for a lot of countries because, specifically, they don't have birth dates that we can validate. Like, how do you pick the date? How do you know that date? How do you get clarity on that? And so, because the United States is so young, there is an agreement for the astrological chart of the United States, which can be used to generate its human design profile. So that's a thing. Anyway, I'm done rambling. I am. I would just like to, close this out by saying, number one, thanks for being with me tonight. Number two, if you know your design, lean into that, lean into the truth of that for you. If you know that you have 5-line people in your life around you, be aware. Be aware. And again, allow yourself to be in a space that you really are being compassionate and understanding to other people. Because what you don't know is what they're experiencing at that point in time either, right? So that's it. That's all my big, philosophical mom stuff for today. And if you have 5-1s who need somebody to talk to, send it to the group. I'll talk to all of them. I'll see them for who they are. And I will help them work through tools that they need to be okay and manage the projection they're putting out as best they can, because they don't really own that part. That's on the rest of us. So have a good night. And thoughts, loving thoughts out to all of the people in the Pacific Northwest. Because apparently it's Satan's ass right now in the Pacific Northwest. I've seen, literally houses with the, I can't even think of the name of the siding warped from all of the heat. If you've seen anything about Detroit, and I don't really watch the news, so of course I saw it on TikTok, canoes on the interstate highways because we've had that much water and it's been flooding that bad here. So thoughts and, good vibes out to all of the people who need that, who are willing to accept that. Because it's getting interesting out here in these streets. So you guys have a great evening. And if you are looking for something, the Om Mani Padme Hum Kuan Yin meditation, find one on YouTube that sounds good to you. Give yourself a week of heart space meditation, get you in a better place. I promise you it will help. I love you all. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for having this conversation. And I will talk to you soon.